Welcome to the DragonCruiser. Okay, so picture this. You take an entire tropical island, and we're talking a place that's bigger than Belgium, and decide to turn it into one of the most ambitious free trade ports on the entire planet. That is exactly what China is trying to do with Hainan. And let me tell you, this is not just another economic zone. This is a massive, high-stakes experiment. The vision is just huge. We're talking widespread tax-free shopping, totally open investment for foreign companies, and a completely seamless flow of goods, money, and data. The goal here is to build an economic hub that's so influential it could rival the world's best, and they want to do it by the middle of this century.
But, for all that soaring ambition, the reality on the ground feels a little different. So, which is it? Is this a brilliant gamble, or is it just a failing fantasy? Today, we're going to look at that grand vision and the pretty worrying signs that threaten to turn this whole dream into one of China's most spectacular unfinished projects.
All right, first let's look at the official plan. The blueprint promises what they call unprecedented openness. The idea is to create an economic environment so free, so attractive, that it could seriously compete with established giants like Hong Kong and Singapore.
The absolute cornerstone of this whole thing is a zero-tariff policy. Now, once it's fully up and running, we're not just talking about luxury handbags. The ambition is for pretty much most products coming into Hainan to be completely free of tariffs. That is a radical shift from how the rest of mainland China operates.
And to become that magnet for business and talent, Hainan is offering some massive tax breaks. For certain industries, the corporate tax gets slashed to just 15%. And for the high-skilled professionals they want to attract, that individual tax rate plummets from a potential 45% all the way down to 15%. Let's be real, this is an aggressive play to lure global talent and cash away from other hubs and get them onto this island.
The master plan talks about these 6 frees. It's basically a whole package deal meant to create an environment of, extreme freedom for doing business. We're talking fewer barriers for goods, for capital, for people, transport, and even for data to move in and out. It's the whole shebang, a complete approach to building a truly open port.
So one of the changes you can see right away is in the duty-free shopping. It's been completely supercharged. The number of things you can buy without that duty-free tax, it more than tripled, like overnight. Now it includes everything from makeup to the latest fancy electronics.
But wait, how does China create this free-for-all zone without basically breaking its own domestic economy? Well, the answer is this really unique and kind of complex system that creates a new economic border inside the country itself.
This is the core idea. They call it an independent customs operation. So think of the entire island of Hainan as being outside China's main customs zone. Goods can cross the first line from anywhere on the world into Hainan with almost no friction and zero tariffs. But, and this is the key part, if you then want to move those goods from Hainan to the mainland, you have to cross a controlled second line, and that's where they get treated like imports and taxed.
This whole system is designed to create its own self-sustaining ecosystem. The free trade port is supposed to directly boost the finance and service industries on the island. But it's a feedback loop, right? Success really depends on building up higher education and an intelligence center to keep the momentum going. It's like they're realizing you can't just build a port. You have to build the entire economic and, brain power infrastructure around it.
So that's the grand vision. But, despite all these ambitious plans, there's a growing gap between the blueprint and what's actually happening. A lot of critics, and some really worrying data, are suggesting this whole project is hitting some serious turbulence.
You can't get much more blunt than this. Long Yang, too, a former top trade official for China, basically said in public that with all the trade wars and protectionism going on globally, it's a terrible time to launch a project like this. It really makes you question the timing of this whole thing. And honestly, the numbers kind of back him up. Hainan set this really ambitious goal of 8% GDP growth for 2024. The reality? Just 3.2% in the first 3 quarters. That's not just a miss, it's a massive shortfall. They're lagging way behind the national average.
Even the poster child of the project, the duty-free sector, is in trouble. Between January and October of 2024, the total amount people spent shopping just plummeted by almost 32% compared to the year before. And it's not just that people are spending less. Fewer people are even showing up to shop, with a 16% drop in shopper numbers. Ouch.
And maybe the most worrying sign of all is this. The foreign money just isn't showing up. The whole point was to be an investment magnet, but the actual cash spent on the ground by foreign companies dropped by a staggering 20% last year. That's a huge red flag, a clear signal that international investors are getting cold feet.
So why is this all happening? Well, experts say the problems run a lot deeper than just bad timing. Hainan has this history of chasing quick money, which led to these crazy real estate bubbles. It doesn't have a strong industrial base to create real sustainable value. And on top of all that, geopolitical tensions and Beijing's intense focus on national security are kind of choking the very openness the port needs to breathe. The result? It's really struggling to attract Western money, and it can't stop its best and brightest from leaving, a classic brain drain.
And all of this brings us to a critical moment, a huge deadline that's just around the corner. This is when we'll see if the grand vision can actually survive its collision with reality.
Okay, so the project was announced back in 2018. The big plan came out in 2020, and the government has set a hard deadline, December 18th, 2025. That's the date for the full customs closure, the moment that whole first-line, second-line system is supposed to go live across the entire island. It's a very symbolic and very real deadline.
So the big question is Hainan ready? This is the moment of truth. The vision was a global trade hub, but growth is tanking. It was supposed to be an investment magnet, but foreign money is actually leaving. The whole promise was openness, that geopolitics are throwing up walls. And that goal of being the world's biggest duty-free market, it's being totally undermined by a huge drop in spending. The gap between the vision and the reality is pretty stark.
And look, this isn't just us being critical from the outside. This quote comes from Chi Fu Lin, a key government advisor and the head of a think tank right there in Hainan. When one of the project's own guys publicly warns that the challenges are now bigger than the opportunities, you know the situation is serious.
So that leaves us with the ultimate question. With that 2025 deadline looming, can Hainan possibly defy the odds and turn this trend around? Or is China's biggest free trade experiment on a fast track to becoming its biggest ever unfinished project? An isolated island full of grand ambitions that just never managed to connect with the rest of the world. The clock is ticking. What do you think will happen? Let us know your take in the comments. And hey, if you found this explainer useful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more.